And ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
And it's time for another Twilight Zone. And today we are in series 3 with a I dare I say, a beautiful episode, Jay.
It's a very cute episode.
Yeah, very, very touching. With the wonderful Nothing in the Dark, directed by Lamont Johnson and written by George Clayton Johnson, no relation. Quiz question, Jay. In what action film would you find Johnson and Johnson, no relation?
I don't know.
It's Die Hard, Jay.
Of course it was.
If the question is ever, what action movie, and you're talking to me, it's either Die Hard, Die Hard 2, or I infamously prefer Die Hard 2 to Die Hard 3. I guess that's infamous. Anyway, Nothing in the Dark. So Lamont Johnson was an actor and still works as an actor concurrent with his directing, and would often work in play form as well. So when you look at the episodes that he directed, including, I think, Nothing in the Dark, when you look at The Shelter, when you look at Five Characters in Search of an Exit, you're looking at more stagey, shall we say, episodes. Fewer characters, lots of extended dialogue scenes, one central location, specifically in Nothing in the Dark and Five Characters in Search of an Exit. And it does add, I guess, a stage sensibility.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I that was one of my main thoughts when watching. I mean, a lot of Twilight Zone episodes are very play-like, but
oh yeah,
this was
Well, I mean, they only had 1 day of rehearsal and 3 days of shooting. Anyway, so this is our first. Oh, and actually, no, the first chronologically as well. The first Gladys Cooper episode. So this is the woman who plays the character of Wanda Dunn. Now let's talk about Nothing in the Dark in general. I wrote this about it back all those years ago in Christopher Court. The two-hander from Clayton Johnson that I believe is the finest writing he ever did. Lamont Johnson directs again and takes us through a relentlessly touching and beautiful rumination on death and the acceptance thereof. Gladys Cooper stars as the aged and decrepit Wanda, a bit rude of me, trapped by choice in her run-down house, avoiding the thing she fears most, a figure she has self-titled Mr. Death. The episode follows Wanda as she, against her will, welcomes in Robert Redford in a very young and ultimately star-making role as a wounded police officer who is brought in. Redford is charming and delightful, and we can see exactly every ounce of the star that he's about to become. This paired with
one of my main notes was that he's very sexy in this episode.
He's always so my first major girlfriend Jenny had a major crush on Robert Redford, and I was trying to remember where it came from, because it wasn't Indecent Proposal, and it wasn't The Way We Were. Where did she have a crush on Robert Redford from?
Maybe she saw a random episode of The Twilight Zone randomly.
No, maybe she was just a huge Winter Soldier guy.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Maybe.
Okay. Have you ever seen me in public when people refer to the Winter Soldier as a sort of, well, it's actually more of a 70s paranoid thriller?
No, I haven't. I don't think I would want to see this interaction.
You should. It's very enjoyable. But a splendidly taught and thoughtful episode that I will truly never forget, and I know will only grow in importance and power as my life continues, vis-a-vis as I get closer and closer to death. So, obviously, this episode was written and made in, I think, January 5th, 1962. And I was listening to a George Clayton Johnson interview from 78, and you can just hear in his voice how he's now, I think a lot about the character of Wanda, and it's just that terrifying thing that comes for us all. And
I also find myself thinking, what if I was an old British woman in an American TV show?
In a decrepit New York tenement.
Yeah.
this isn't the last time the Twilight Zoners would find Gladys Cooper, and born in 1888
Oh, damn.
and died in 1971. This isn't the last time that we will see her either, Jay, because we will be doing the episode Night Call, which is a very, very good episode, another sort of stagey episode. And then an episode that we won't be doing is Passage on the Lady Anne, which not just, maybe we should do it because I used to work on a cruise ship, but it's a Series 4 episode that, again, is far too long, like most Series 4 episodes. And it's a load of elderly people on a boat. And guess what? It's a boat going to heaven or hell. No, it's not. It's going to heaven. We hope. But she's just so wonderful and touching here.
She's fantastic.
And just incredibly pained. So Clayton Johnson, go on.
Very expressive face.
Mm.
It reminded me of Harry Dean Stanton.
Yes.
When he was older as well. Before
I heard some incredible information about Harry Dean Stanton earlier, Jay. Did you know that he used to date Rebecca De Mornay when she was like young and sexy in 1982? Not that Rebecca De Mornay isn't now sexy, but when Rebecca De Mornay, I think she was 21 or something, maybe. And he used to, during the shooting of Risky Business, he used to swim lengths all day in the hotel room waiting for her. Not in the hotel room.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. In the early 1980s.
Yeah. I can see Harry Dean's. I think Rebecca De Mornay has a thing for older men because then she went with Leonard Cohen for a while.
Old men who are very weary about life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suzanne takes you down. So Clayton Johnson, in the interview, he says it was inspired by this Ray Bradbury short story, Death and the Maiden. And then he describes the short story. And to be honest with you, I haven't read the short story, but it sounds very, very much story by Ray Bradbury. I don't know if he can get away with saying inspired by. So it's all about a knight who comes to a maiden in a tower and talks about the beauty of the land and all the things that the maiden is missing out on in this tower. And she says, no, my father tells me to stay in the tower or else, I'll be in danger and all that sort of thing. And eventually she comes down and goes off on the horse. And it's kind of an ambiguous ending of, is she actually going to die or something like that? Sounds like a good short story. It sounds like it's very similar to Serling modernizing the Gift of the Magi for the Long Morrow. And yes, no, except here, the young maiden is now an old woman. And actually, I take my point, well, I keep my point, but the Gift of the Magi, adapted into the Long Morrow, takes the beauty of the story of the Gift of the Magi and makes it the saddest shit you've ever seen. And in this, what could be, I should have read the short story, I guess, but this young maiden being taken by a knight sounds like quite a dark ending and sounds like a life being cut short. Whereas it's this beautiful, beautiful. Well, I mean, the overall is obviously that it's this elderly woman, deeply elderly, who is remaining in her decrepit home, a rundown block of tenements, and this was in the period of New York real estate, and where they would just break down just whole tenements and rebuild. And she's choosing to stay there because she has this deep, deep set fear about death coming to her in the form of a humanoid figure. And that is how she thinks she will come to die, is that if she leaves the house, and very similar to the Lonely Island song YOLO, you only live once, where by the end of the song they barricade themselves in their homes because they realize that the you only live once is actually a terrifying thing. A very funny video. Deeply, deeply, deeply run down. Now, I don't want to be rude to Gladys Cooper, but she is a very, very weak and frail elderly woman. How has she survived this winter so far? Half of the wall has disappeared.
Because there is a small boy who she writes a list for, who probably brings her lots of blankets.
That sounds, is
the small boy who visits the abandoned
tenement
building. Yeah.
To steal money from this elderly woman. I'll get you some groceries. What if the boy's never come back? She's only sent him off once. He's coming back later with some groceries.
Yeah.
Um, and then we hear this gunshots and this commotion outside, and we see glimmers of it through the half wall, and then we open the door. And well,
Yep.
she doesn't open the door fully. She opens the door just a sliver, and then we see Robert Redford, a very young Robert Redford, currently, I believe he was still in the run of Barefoot in the Park that made him famous on Broadway, and he is shot, wounded. He's a young police officer in distress, and Gladys Cooper is this wonder character, just keeps saying, I know what you are, I know who you are," and we're kind of
Mhm.
somewhere in between, understanding what she's saying and what's happening here,
Yep.
and then we get this reveal of Rod in the mirror, which seems gimmicky
This
to
was
start with.
this was funny.
It was funny, specifically because he's not. They didn't manage to make him look directly in the
Because
camera.
he's looking to the side, and then the camera, and I'm like, it's already done a spinning camera to him, and he's
Yeah,
looking kind of off screen, like he's looking at her, and then the camera moves again,
yeah.
and he's looking into the camera.
And it felt kind of gimmicky, and I was like, why are they doing this on this episode? And then I remembered the vampire kind of reveal near the end of that's how she realizes that he's not real, is that he's not in the mirror. And I thought, oh, that was kind of cool. An old woman living in a nightmare, an old woman who has fought 1,000 battles with death and always won. Now she's faced with a grim decision, whether or not to open a door. And in some strange and frightening way, she knows that the seemingly ordinary door leads to the Twilight Zone. Um, this was a first time episode, as most of these are moving forward for you. What was your initial reaction? Where do you think the story could go?
My main concern was that it was going to be a full 25 minutes of her debating whether or not to let a guy in through a door, and then at the end he reveals he's an alien.
That could have been a distinct, yeah, that could have been a distinct issue, yeah.
Yeah. But and I also thought it was a very straightforward narration. So I was very happy after the opening when she opened the door immediately.
Yes. Yes, we do. We let him in straight away.
Mhm.
There's no, am I missing something here? His named Harold Belden. There's no reference to death in there, is there? I'm not being stupid. It's not like it's not got anything on Al
I
Pacino's devil being called John Milton in The Devil's Advocate.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Um, I'd have
Yeah,
to
if you
unlock the
rearrange the
door.
words, it's the words, the letters, it's Mr. Death. No, I'm joking.
Yes, mister. I'd have to unlock the door. You can't ask me to do that. I don't want to die. You're like, oh no. And then she lets him in. And all the neighbors have left. It's a series of condemned buildings. And then she begins talking about how the friend who she saw who died with this Mr. Death figure, and the other experiences that she's had, and how she's built up this, deep paranoia, deep fear of this personified Mr. Death.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in a run of 155 episodes, you look at death in multiple ways. So we've got one for the angels, the wonderful Murray Hamilton. I've been sitting in the dark quite a while. I can see perfectly well of the Graduate fame in One for the Angels, a sort of completely businessman-like, afterlife figure. This is your time, blah blah blah, and all that sort of rigor. Again, to a kind of old man, and we get this, and Redford is just so charming and so, like you say, just beautifully with his blonde hair, and he's just lying there. He looks like an angel before we even realize what's happening.
Yeah.
And he says,
Also, at this point, you don't really know. You can guess that he's get deaf, obviously. But I think just him going, oh, that's crazy, was enough to make me think, oh, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just this random police officer who's shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is riding the line of, is the twist going to be that actually he's not death and she lets him die and all that sort of thing.
Maybe she's cursed.
And
everyone she meets fucking dies.
Yeah, the little boy. that's the ending. He looks in the corner. Go and get some bandages in the bathroom, and there's a dead little boy in there. And then we get this, immediate thing, very similar to the Lonely Island's YOLO song, consisting of, is living like this worth living at all? Living or surviving. And she says, if I don't live like this, then I won't live at all. And what's the point of a life not lived? And obviously, this is a very heady question, and the beautiful writing of Clayton Johnson expunds that and gets expunging not being a real word.
I thought it was going to go with him going, "Oh, but you're not living your life. You're living in your room all the time." But it's nice they didn't.
There's no big speechifying until the very end. And by that time, obviously, the speechifying is truly, truly beautiful. So we kind of fall into it. And then we get the contractor knocking at the door and busting in the door, and poor Gladys Cooper.
And killing the woman.
That could have been a good ending. The contractor killing.
I mean, he checks. The first thing he does is put his hand on her neck, and I'm like, "Oh God, is she dead?" Okay.
Like, oh, you gave me a real scare. It's like, why did you knock the door down? and then he's a very genteel man, and it's a beautiful performance, and it's very gentle and calm with her. Again, the sort of way especially once she starts talking to this imaginary figure, you start thinking dementia, you start thinking of being senile, and the aspects of that. But it's all shot with these incredible tight close-ups of his face, so you could get the impression that he is this overshadowing figure, that he is this death-like figure, sort of a more bullish and evil face. And he starts saying, I've got crew and equipment coming to bring this place down in a couple of hours. You didn't want to do this is your final check 2 hours before your contractors are on their way.
Yep. Yeah. So either she leaves or they're just killing her.
Again, possibly a different ending, but save me, Mr. Death.
I mean, are they gonna I mean, spoilers for the end of the episode. Are they just gonna cave the building in with a dead body?
Cave the building in on a dead body. I presume by the time that they come back, they do one final check and go, and he goes, "Oh, she's dead. Great. Tractor in." And they're
this
like,
crazy witch. This crazy witch is dead.
Yes. Oh, thank God. That saved me a lot of paperwork. Mark Scott Zickery talked about this in the commentary, because he said that it could be seen as the great mercy of death, because if she didn't die there, if she didn't die there in her sleep and was taken away, then she'd have been kicked out with nowhere to go into the streets.
Hey, that's yeah. I was thinking that whilst he was talking to her. I was like, so is she going to be homeless now?
Hence, yeah. And the contractor does this. I think it's veiled enough to get away with it. Veiled metaphor about bringing down old buildings and making way for the new. And I think it's just veiled enough to get away with it.
Yeah.
And then we get this moment of what he presumes is dementia or something, of tell them, Mr. Belden, tell them. And I love that he just is calm with her and gentle with her and says, "I'm going to be coming back soon," and doesn't throw in a,
I mean,
"There is no Mr. Belden. We're so close to getting a, there's nobody there."
The closest we get is his face looking like, okay, all right, you need help.
And is like, maybe that's who he's going to get. Like, maybe he's going to get more proper help for her before they bring the building down.
Before they bring the building down on top of her.
And poor Wanda Dunn. What a good name. And then we get this, "Please, Mr. Belden," and then he leaves, "Why didn't you help me?" And then we get the final reveal, and look in the mirror, Wanda. And and her first reaction is, "But why? The moment I let you inside, you could have taken me any time, but you were nice. You made me trust you. And Redford gets up and is just so warm and gentle. And again, that youth, that maybe it's because we've seen, Redford get old himself, but like that.
He's really, really good at this point in the episode.
And that youth, like direct juxtaposition with the elderly Gladys Cooper. So when so there was a lot of respect for Gladys Cooper on the set, as I'm sure you can imagine. And Lamont Johnson actually, once he chose Redford, introduced him to Gladys for her own approval. Now, obviously, I don't know if they'd have just gone ahead with it either way, but to see, and she said to him, "Darling, get him for me," and it just immediately winning. And it's one of the. I mean, it was a different era of time when it comes to how shows are made, obviously. Let me get the figure about how much Redford did before he got his first film, because obviously he's
I think I already have it. 25 TV series.
Yeah. Various shows
until Inside Daisy Clover was his breakthrough, apparently.
The one, and is. And then the way I love the way we were. I mean, I'm always going to be. I am a Newman guy over Redford. I'm sorry, but I do love Redford. And then it continues, and but I had to make you understand. Am I really so bad? Am I really so frightening? You've talked to me. You've confided in me. How have I tried to hurt you? It isn't me you're afraid of. You understand me. What you're afraid of is the unknown, hence the title. There's nothing in the dark, and
then,
don't.
And then it cuts to the credits. The Willy Wonka Experience.
No, he was called the unknown. Yes, sorry, yes. It's the unknown. Forgot about that. That was very, very funny. And he continues now, and then Gladys starts crying, and then he says this. He says, "Mother, give me your hand." Now, how did you read that?
I don't know. I didn't know how to find it. I was like, is this the last minute twist? Is she Mrs. Death?
Yeah. Is it like I'm taking the form of your? Was this because we have no mention of a son, no mention of anything.
True, and it could have been that as well.
I've always seen it as perhaps just him he's taken the veil of her son to try and give me a hand, possibly a war death maybe or anything. But then again, this isn't like these these episodes aren't normally this ambiguous, and it's quite a haunting, ambiguous line. And Clayton Johnson bloody didn't say anything on any interviews. Anyway, and then that beautiful moment of touching the hands, and then nothing. The music barely changes. No shock, no engulfment, no tearing asunder. What you feared would come like an explosion is like a whisper. What you thought was the end, the beginning. And then when will it happen? When will we go? And then look. And she has this no shock, no surprise, no pain or horror when she turns to see her already dead body. And Harold just says, "We have already begun." And they walk off, and then he takes her arm, and it's all very beautiful. And he helps her up those steps, and the snow stops, and it's kind of sunny out there. And it's just this truly, truly beautiful, beautiful. I mean, obviously, it's a rumination on death and a presentation of just the best possible outcome of an afterlife. And then we get sailing. There was an old woman who lived in a room, and like all of us, was frightened of the dark, but who discovered in a last-minute fragment of her life that there was nothing in the dark that wasn't there when the lights were on. Object lesson for the more frightened amongst us, in or out of the Twilight Zone. Just a touching evocation of what hopefully happens. Well, when things change, shall we say.
Yeah. Robert Redford shows up.
I wish. What if it was Robert Redford now and I said, Rob, Winter Soldier. I mean, you were in. What are you doing?
The 70s espionage thriller.
The famous. I mean, right. Let's rank the wonderful Nothing in the Dark. I'm sending you the list now. So I had this ranked second of my second in my best of series 3 to It's a Good Life. And then I don't know where I put it in my top 15 of all time, actually. But it's, yeah, I rank this very highly. What do you think?
I did really enjoy it. Ooh, maybe 5th.
I think it could be that high.
Yeah, I'd say I enjoyed it more than Maple Street.
Oh, Maple Street's very iconic, though, Jay.
Yeah, but so's Die Hard.
Die Hard's, that's a terrible argument. Die Hard's excellent.
True.
I'd be happy. See, Jay, we're starting to have arguments. This deep friendship is falling apart. I'd be happy with it at 6.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just one less than what was posited.
I guess I can settle for that.
You can have one. You can have another one soon.
Okay.
I can give you a freebie. Okay. What is our next episode? Let's have a look. The next one
I also forgot to say that this was like the second episode in a row about an elderly woman on her own in a house.
Yes, this is the weird thing. I've tried to be really different back to back, but I keep hitting like a foul of just like the After Hours back to. Well, I won't ruin that. But anyway, next episode is The Obsolete Man. A stunning episode. Another Burgess Meredith.
Hey.
Is Rocky. I'm not a Rocky guy. I'm not a Rocky guy. Never have been.
You know.
No, I'm sorry, Jack. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I'll put that on the list.
Well, thank you very, very much, Jay. And I hope when we pass that Robert Redford meets us both, or
calls his mother,
or Harry Dean Stanton, Swimming Lance, and Rebecca De Mornay meets us. Either way,
or maybe we get hit by a car. And then Harry Dean Stanton will come and watch our spirits fly into the sky.
Oh, yeah, that did happen on
Yes, it did.
What are the specials at Haps, Jay? It's a question. What are the specials at Haps?
Specials at Haps?
At Haps Diner.
I don't know.
We don't have any.
Okay.
Fake fan, Jay. Fake fan.
I am.
Thank you very, very much, Jay. And we're going. Oh no, that's very sad. I'm not going to make this end like we're dying.